Destiny isn't a series that's necessarily known for its romances, even though they do exist. Like a lot of the game's story, relationships between the characters of the world, be they romantic or platonic, tend to lie in subtext through written lore pieces or even idle dialogue. But that doesn't take away from the importance of them in the narrative, and furthermore how important these relationships are to fans of the game, especially those in the LGBTQ+ community. Hello world, my name is Jade, otherwise known as Scarlet Rebel. Welcome to the first video in a series exploring queer characters in video games. In today's episode, we're going to explore WLW relationships, that's woman loving woman for those of you who are unaware, in my favourite game, Destiny, and discuss their history in the game, how they provide good representation for queer people, and how they could be improved. So, 2 disclaimers before we dive in. First of all is that I am a bisexual woman who has been playing Destiny pretty much since launch, in case you were wondering why I would bother making a whole video on this topic. Secondly is that I will be using the term queer in this video. For me, queer is a good umbrella term when it comes to talking about non-heterosexual people. I understand and am aware of the other side of the argument, however this is not the video to discuss that. For me, I stand by the definition of queer as an umbrella term for sexual and gender minorities who are not heterosexual or are not cisgender. In this particular video, the term queer makes it easier for me to talk about these characters without specifically labelling their sexualities, because to be quite frank, there is no specific definition of their sexualities. So, with all that in mind, let's jump straight in. Oh, wait, that's not right.
Six of us went down into the pit. Only one crawled out. I am Eris, the last. I have seen what the hive call a god. Crota, son of Oryx. He took everything from me.
Destiny's first DLC was titled The Dark Below and brought with it an NPC we all know and love, Eris Morn. Through this DLC we learned that Eris was part of a team who tried to kill the hive god Crota, but failed in their attempt. An attempt that was spearheaded by Eriana-3, an exo-warlock seeking revenge for the death of her partner, a titan called Wei Ning, who fell at Crota's hands during a legendary battle on the moon known as the Great Disaster. Before researching for this video, my vague memory of Destiny 1 led me to believe that there was many a lore card and flavour text that alluded to Eriana and Wei Ning being romantically involved from the Dark Below and onwards. But I could only actually find 2 pieces, a grimoire card and some flavour text on a questline, both released during The Taken King, which came out 9 months after The Dark Below. So, to put that into perspective, The Dark Below came first, leading us all to believe that Eris Morn's fire team's motivations for killing Crota was purely revenge for the slew of guardians that he murdered on the moon. It's not until The Taken King 9 months later where we receive notions that Eriana's true intent in killing Crota lied in avenging Wei Ning. The Taken King, Ghost Fragment, The Hellmouth 2. For Wei, I am sorry. My ghost's light is so dim, there's no point following me further into this fog. Any hope of raising me died halfway through the stills. I only hope she's got strength enough to take this ember to where you fell, to dance once more with any last whisper of your own light left on this cursed broken rock. Again, I will confess, I am Eriana-3 of the Praxic Fire, and I know my flame goes out down here. I will burn bright and hot and raise 1,000 hive to ash as I go, but I know we will not end him, the one who fell you, and hundreds more, with that foul blade. I now beg, as I feared, for your forgiveness. I will not avenge you, but join you amongst the fires snuffed out upon this moon. I was a fool to lead us here. I was blinded by the loss of so much, by your light extinguished. After The Taken King, the next lore pieces we received about the nature of Eriana and Wei Ning's relationship were during Destiny 2, and then after that during Season of the Forge, the first Destiny season post-Forsaken. Now, it's not uncommon of Bungie to slowly trickle information about characters and storylines in the lore throughout the game's life. One good example is the character of Dredgen Yor, legendary guardian who forged Thorn when he became corrupted by the darkness. Over each DLC in the first Destiny game, more grimoire cards in the form of collectible dead ghosts were added in, slowly revealing more of his story to us. So if this isn't an uncommon storytelling practice from Bungie, why does it matter? Well, the thing is, the first place in which we receive better and more explicit confirmation of Eriana and Wei's love for each other is throughout the course of Destiny 2. First from Eriana's perspective, in the lore card for the Eriana's Vengeance ship, to Wei Ning. More than anything, I hate the idea that we will be remembered as a tragedy. That's not true. I reserve that distinction for the monster that took you away from me, but I know it's what you would hate the most. You, who are always so full of laughter. So now, in this moment, as the ship named for my vengeance flies me and 5 others to Luna, I will remember the happy times. Our first meeting, in the Tower Saloon. Your laugh made the glasses clatter. You bought 3 rounds for the entire room. Pahanin introduced us. You sat me down next to you and plied me with questions about storm chances. All things that, on any other night, would have annoyed me. But that night, because it was you, I knew then and there that I never wanted to be without you. And then, from Wei Ning's perspective, in the lore card for the Star-Crossed Mark. This card shows a conversation between the two wherein Eriana presents Wei Ning with a gift of a new Titan mark, made from some of her own armour. It's an incredibly romantic scene, showcasing the vulnerability of one person showing themselves to someone else in the hope of reciprocation. Wei accepts the gift, her response used as the armour piece's flavour text. You don't even have to ask. I'd follow you to the end of the galaxy. All of this leads us chronologically to the Shadowkeep expansion. Here is where we truly see the explicitness of their relationship. Week by week, Erismon provides a weekly mission for players that takes them through the history of each of her fireteam members, in the hopes that it will help relieve her of the nightmares of them. In order to progress Eriana's, you need to kill enemies and pick up pieces of Eriana's letters to Wei Ning. The flavour text on these bolsters this line from the Eriana's Vengeance lore card. I knew then and there that I never wanted to be without you. In remembering Eriana, Eris tells us that the Warlock should be remembered as someone who didn't want anyone to suffer the way she and Wei Ning did, which to me very expressly implies that they were together. We can infer that Wei died tragically and painfully at the hands of Crota, and with Eris's words we know that Eriana truly suffered without her, as anyone losing the love of their life would.
Eris, when your strike team headed to the moon, did Eriana-3 carry the letters Wei Ning sent her?
Yes. To remind her of why we fought. Why we sought to bring about Crota's end. It was not simply vengeance. Eriana wanted no one to suffer, like she and Wei had suffered. That is how she should be remembered.
So at this point, Eriana and Wei's story is not only well known, but it is, as at the Shadowkeep expansion, inarguable because of the content that is in the game. Which is an amazing step in the right direction as far as queer visibility in this game goes. For me, I see Eriana and Wei as good representation in general based on that implicitness. From the Taken King onwards, every lore card or flavour text that mentions the two of them speaks to their relationship, to how much they cared for each other, to their romantic feelings for one another. And when the opportunity arose to expand upon that relationship, Bungie took it. Their story was told explicitly and undeniably through Eris's weekly missions. Eriana's love for Wei Ning is right there on the screen in front of you. However, I also believe that there are little ways in which their relationship could have been bolstered. It all comes back to explicitness. What is there is good, and I'm personally really happy with the amount of it. That being said, from my observations in the community at large, and many communities as far as queer people in media goes, fans get their power to disregard queer people when things are not plainly stated. Hence why, spoiler alert, you're going to be sick of the word explicit by the end of this video. For example, I wish Eris had made their relationship more explicit in the things she said about Eriana. Eriana wanted no one to suffer like she and Wei had suffered. That is how she should be remembered. Could have so easily had something like, as someone who was seeking closure for the death of their partner, added on to the end. It's so simple, it adds one whole sentence to the content of their story, but it creates implicitness as to their sexualities as queer women, and furthermore their relationship as a lesbian couple, which is incredibly important. And on a scale that pertains to the narrative of the story, it has to be mentioned that at the end of the day, our entire fight against the Hive began with this WLW relationship. The entire catalyst for Eris Morn being where she is today, us felling Crota and Oryx and essentially challenging a pantheon of hive gods, is a woman who lost the love of her life, another woman, and her wanting revenge. This is a story that has been told time and time again with straight couples, and I suppose it could be argued that this catalyst, the importance of where this storyline with the hive came from, has been buried under so much content. Eris Morn would not exist as she is was it not for Eriana seeking vengeance against Crota for the death of Wei Ning. And we wouldn't have sought out Crota's death on Eris's behalf, revenge for her fire team being slaughtered by him, which leads to Oryx wanting his revenge on us for the death of his son, and so on the story goes. Now we sit and wait for Savathûn to make her play, now that we have killed Oryx and opened up a vacancy. However, that is why it's so important to highlight it. The Hive are the Guardian's truest antithesis. Another argument would be that whether we wanted it or not, we were always going to step into a war with the Hive, but Bungie chose to make a revenge story involving a queer couple the first step in that war, and I wish that that would have been more clearly stated. The revenge story that centered around Uldren killing Cade had its own consequences. The Dreaming City opened, the last known Ahamkara was killed, which caused the Dreaming City to become cursed, causing all kinds of problems that still affect the plot in the current story of Destiny. So the point that I'm making is this: revenge is used as a narrative device for many storylines in Destiny, but unfortunately in the case of a queer couple, it's not made as apparent as it was with that of two men. One thing I'll say though is, to that point, I certainly understand that Eris wanting revenge on Crota outweighed Eriana and Wei's story when The Dark Below came out. That being said, it still would have been brilliant, and would be brilliant. Who knows what might happen in Destiny's future as far as the lore goes. We could get more lore pieces, we could get a lore book about them. It would just be really cool if they were credited for being the start of our entire war with the Hive, whether that be framed in a good or a bad way. Bungie have played with revenge having a cost in the past. Such a humble beginning of revenge for a loved one could be a really cool thing to explore somewhere in the lore.
Guardians aren't supposed to investigate their past. That's the rule. But I'm not good with rules. Not when there's this much at stake. The Clovis Bray tech in that building allowed us to colonize the system during the Golden Age. They, sought to create peace for all humanity. Which is ironic, because they also built Rasputin, the single most powerful weapon in the solar system. Either way, it's all been entombed on Mars since the collapse. Along with something far more terrifying.
The discovery of Anna Bray's queerness within the game itself mirrors Eriana and Wei's somewhat, as the first piece of lore about her also came out with The Taken King, and she was then confirmed in a future release to be a queer woman. That being said, the story of Anna and Camrin, being the story of a queer couple, is arguably handled better and made more explicit than Eriana and Wei's. Anna Bray was once thought dead, a legend who gave her life to defend the city at the Battle of Twilight Gap. The strength of the Parker cloak from Destiny 1 is the same one she wore during the battle, and in a quest to receive the exotic pulse rifle No Time to Explain, obviously not the one from Beyond Light, the one from Destiny 1, we discover that her light was so powerful, the bullets from her golden gun left behind pools of light. This cloak and this questline, which includes future war cult leader Lakshmi 2 telling us bits and pieces about Anna, is pretty much all of the information we had about her in the first Destiny game. She was well known, but not a lot was known about her. Bungie's first foray into the world of comics premiered with the Curse of Osiris DLC, the first DLC for Destiny 2. The two-part comic series told the story of the Warlock Osiris, providing insights into his relationship with Saint 14, his mentorship of Ikora, and the steps leading up to the infamous exile that had been spoken about in the world of Destiny for so long. The next DLC, Warmind, followed a similar approach, releasing a series of comics this time telling the story of Warmind's focus character, Anna Bray. In these comics we learned that Anna knew she was a Bray, and was actively researching the Brays and Rasputin. However, we can infer that she met an incredible amount of resistance. In the final issue, we see her defending her research to Zavala by arguing that the Traveler had brought her back for a reason. This reason, she felt, was to find and help Rasputin so that he could aid the Guardians and the city. In order to carry out this research uninhibited, Anna felt it was best to fake her death, taking an opportunity from a seemingly fatal blow by a fallen captain to let the world think that she had died at Twilight Gap. Under a different name, Anna's main goal was to find where Rasputin was, and in trying to do so, she met a human woman called Camrin, a member of the Owl Sector. The two took to each other, and Camrin began to aid Anna, but she figured out quickly who she was helping. And working together to find where Rasputin was, the two fell in love, Camrin protecting Anna's identity and aiding in her search. The two discover that Rasputin is on Mars, but when trying to find more information in the Meridian Bay, Camrin is injured. Nevertheless, Camrin tells Anna that she believes that she is destined to find Rasputin and encourages her to do so while she recovers. Overall, this is a pretty classic, wrapped up tight in a bow story contained within the comics. Anna finds Rasputin, all whilst wrestling with the notion that Camrin could die at any moment, clinging to the one that she loves as she loses her light on the harsh Mars landscape and has to learn to survive without it. I'm personally really satisfied with this story, and I think that this is some really good representation. Camrin isn't a token gay character, and neither is Anna. She's still Anna Bray, and the gender of the person she's in love with doesn't affect or change the story. She's just in love, that's all there is to it. They both meet organically in a way that has been told with straight couples since the dawn of time, their eyes catching over a stack of books in the library, and one cracking a cheesy pickup line at the other. It's normal, it's cute, and it's lovely. They fall in love like any other couple, and they experience tragedy like any other couple. It's just two people falling in love, and their gender isn't of consequence. That being said, there is still room for improvement, as with all things. It's going to get a little nitpicky here, however, I do wish there was some idle dialogue from Anna in the game about Camrin, or even just an anecdote about her during a quest, or hell, even a patrol. Some flavor text on a bounty maybe? Something like that to bring Camrin into the game itself, because as far as I'm aware, and as far as Ishtar Collector tells me, she isn't mentioned in Destiny the game. Again, it comes back to the topic of explicitness. Similarly to Eriana and Wei, I just wish there was a verbal acknowledgement of Anna Bray's queerness. This would boost the already fantastic representation Bungie's got going on with her by showing it in, the main medium of the Destiny franchise. Give every WLW player that nod of acknowledgement. I just think that would elevate the level of representation that's already there. Ultimately though, the story of Anna and Camrin is by its nature easier to explain than that of Eriana and Wei, so you can literally see the improvement. Even so, it's still not as explicit in the game itself, which is where even more improvements need to be made, at least in my opinion.
My name is Sjur. I was the first to stand beside Mara Sov.
So this is the big one. Undoubtedly, or at least in my opinion, the most talked about / known of lesbians in the world of Destiny, Mara Sov and Sjur. And we're going to start talking about them in the next video. Yeah, this video is sitting at about 20 minutes already, and with all the information surrounding Mara and Sjur and the topics that I want to touch on, it could easily become a 40-minute video if I'm not careful. I also just feel like Mara and Sjur have so much surrounding them that they deserve to have a whole video in of themselves. So yeah, in the next video of this gay little series we will be talking about not only Mara Sov and Sjur, but also the complexities of the bury your gays trope. I've learned a lot about it since writing for this video and for the Mara and Sjur video after I separated it, and I'm really excited to talk about it. But anyway, let's wrap up what we've learned as far as representation in Destiny goes using Eriana and Wei and Anna and Camrin as examples. We can certainly give Bungie props for overall inclusivity. Anna and Camrin are, to me, a good example of a queer relationship in the world of Destiny. Eriana and Wei too, however I wish their importance in the narrative, that being the fact that they are the catalysts of this now huge hive story, was more widely known. Also, people love Eriana and Wei. Wei Ning is such a well-loved titan, and I personally think that making a big deal out of her involvement in the Great Disaster and furthermore Ariana's need for revenge would have gone over really well. There's also something to be said for Bungie writing more queer characters in Destiny 2 as opposed to Destiny 1. Perhaps there were, as Mark Noseworthy once said, capital R reasons why they couldn't write characters with the level of explicitness that Anna and Camrin have, and so in Destiny 2 not only did they make a point to write those characters, but also in Eriana and Wei's case shine a spotlight on what was already there, and I don't think that's a bad thing, I think that's a really good step forward. When I started writing this script, I wrote that I felt as though these characters' sexualities can sometimes be shadowed, leaving ample wiggle room for those who would like to refute their queerness in a myriad of ways. I said that I thought this was something that Bungie should reflect on, which I do stand by. It would be nice if queer people were given the security of knowing for a fact that certain characters are representations of them in their favourite game. That being said, recently Robert Brooks, a narrative designer at Bungie who notably writes Satan and Osiris, tweeted a thread about their relationship confirming that they are gay and in love. The thread is beautiful and I'm going to leave a link to it in the description so you can all go read it, but he said something that stuck with me and changed my original stance that I wrote in this script. Nuance is lost in a world of queerbaiting, it's true. And I think that this is a problem with writing gay characters into a narrative like Destiny. Some people want the kind of nuance that Robert Brooks writes, and some want the height of explicitness. Personally, I sit somewhere in the middle. Nuance is lovely and it feels normal, but I also want to know for certain that my favourite characters are like me. The latter doesn't make Bungie bad writers though, which is an ire I have seen in the community before, and I just don't think that that's fair. Anna and Camrin are gay. Eriana and Wei are gay. Satan and Osiris are 100% gay, and you can bet your ass I'm going to be doing a video about them and the subject of queerbaiting, which, let me just make this crystal clear, I do not think Bungie ever has or ever will queerbait. So overall, and at the end of everything, these character sexualities are apparent. There's no use arguing that, especially in Anna and Camrin's case. But with little things like more lore in the game and more explicitness, there is room for improvement, and the explicitness of their relationships and their sexualities could be better. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please take the time to comment and let me know your opinions on representation in the world of Destiny, or any game for that matter. Also, a shout out to my partner Tristan, otherwise known as Exordium Noctis on Twitter, for helping me edit the script and in general make it the best that it could be. Mwah! Please consider liking and subscribing, but honestly, if you watched this whole video, I'm already so grateful. I hope you enjoyed this video and look forward to more SA-like stuff in the future. My socials will be down in the description, in particular my Twitter where I tend to talk about Destiny the most, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Goodbye!